Campfires burning, draw nearer, in the glory. God, I can't sing, I really can't. Did you know that Liechtenstein is the smallest German-speaking country on the planet and is the only German-speaking country that does not border Germany? As we know, Liechtenstein is bordered by Austria and Switzerland. Those two both also speak German. Switzerland actually has 4 national languages, but those are the countries off the top of my head which also speak German, along with Germany, obviously. So that was probably a bit more of an obvious fact, to be honest there actually, but I thought, you know what, let's just go ahead and, for people who are interested in languages, go ahead and put that one in there. Anyway, got quite a lot of work to do this episode again, so the first thing I've gone ahead and changed is I need to put a high-rise ban, and I have put a high-rise ban on this street here. The reason is because that should not be like that. I want to have, like, at the end of your streets, you know, your local convenience store where you get the newspaper. Don't want huge department stores like this. This is really what I'm against, so I'm going to go ahead and, if I see a building which is too high, for example this one here, just going to go ahead and delete it, because these are a bit too... I don't know, they're just a bit too high, to be honest. That does, however, mean though that I need to go ahead and put in more commercial, because that's my demand, and that's just always been the thing which I've been needing, really. It's just more commercial, and more commercial, so hopefully we'll get to that in this episode. Anyway, it looks like we're having some water issues with our recycling centre here, so we'll go ahead and very quickly just connect you up to the grid, connect you into there, and along there, like so that works out nicely. So another thing which, thank you to comments, I'm going to go ahead and change the name of this town from Rose Hills to Rosenberg, which I believe is actually the German meaning of Rose Hills. Or it's very similar anyway. There's quite a large city in Germany called Rosenberg. I'm not really at all sure on the stats of it, but I know it has a relatively successful football team anyway. That's really how I know it exists. But I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for all the amazing feedback on this series so far. It's going down really well. One thing I would say though is remember to leave a like rating, because I use that as a very good gauge to go ahead and see what aspects and what episodes people are sort of enjoying, and I go ahead and use that for future episodes. But I do get the feeling that some people just sort of forget to leave a like rating, so stop. Just stop right now and go ahead and hit that like button so I know that we're doing everything good. Anyway, at the end of the last episode, I wanted to go ahead and start working on a sort of a mountain village, to be honest, and that's what we're going to go ahead and do, and then we're going to go ahead and hopefully eventually make it into a little bit of a ski town. So it's at the top of this road here, and this is probably one of the coolest roads on the map, to be honest. As you can see, it just sort of weaves and winds its way up the hill, and then we went ahead and made this road right up the valley at the end of the last episode, and we're also going to have a railway line coming up here today as well, which we're going to go ahead and create. Now, I was talking with someone, I can't remember who it was in the comments, and we're talking about going ahead and how big are we going to make this town, and it's literally going to be 2 streets. This person wanted to see, I guess, just like residential housing on the main road, and I'm not really going to have a main road, to be honest, of this place. I am going to sort of just, it's literally going to be 2 streets. It's going to be a very small town overall. So we're going to go ahead and pretty much, it's going to be tiny, this place. It's literally going to be tiny. I'm going to make it about there and about there, and then just have these 2 roads parallel, literally. Going to smooth this land out a bit, and I'm going to go ahead and just have some more freer roads, to be honest. But it's just going to be very basic, to be honest. You're not going to get exactly like multiple streets up in a mountain, are you? So it just doesn't work like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this back a little bit here. I'm going to do some terraforming as well, because this is going to need to be, as much as I want to go ahead and try and maximize the space, we're on the top of a mountain, and it's going to be quite difficult, but I do need flat land to work with. That is the thing. So there we go, that is me soften things up a little, and I think we can go ahead and start work on this little town. So again, I don't really know what I'm going to go ahead and call the town. I've got a few ideas, however, I'm not really set in stone with them, to be honest. This is going to be a very small village. It's not really going to be a village, it's going to be more of a skiing resort eventually, because not in this episode, but in the next episode, probably going to go ahead and get myself some props which can go ahead and allow for that. So it's going to be hotels, a lot of parking, and really not a lot of housing or any industry, to be honest. It's going to be commercial and hotels is the main thing which this town is going to, or village I should say, is evolved around. Again though, we're going to have to go ahead and do all the services and also go ahead and try connect up wind, which I want to go ahead and make a wind farm up here. Even though we've got great electricity connections, I don't want to have a pylon coming up through the valley because I think that would be a bit stupid. And of course, because we're up here in the mountains, then there is quite good wind, I guess, which we can go ahead and use. Now, a lot of people see turbines as an eyesore, which I kind of understand that. However, I think they're a very, very good source of renewable energy, and definitely in Scotland anyway, we're starting to go ahead and use wind turbines even more. So going ahead and just putting 5 there, that's going to provide adequate power for this area, which shall be good. Piping though, piping's going to be a little bit of a different story. I'm going to have to unfortunately have a pipe sort of just trailing right up the mountain, which is not good. However, I can go ahead and sort of just hopefully keep it out the way and have it up to there, which works out no problem. So with that done, we're going to go ahead and create the railway station, because the railway station is going to be a key part, because how I want to think about it is that the road will not always be open just because of snow. That's how I think of these things, especially in winter. You think about the Alps, the amount of snow people get there, they can get very much cut off, and not that rail is always the option, but I would like to have 2 modes of transport which can go ahead and allow access to this village. So we're going to have to go ahead and basically build around the railway station because there's so little work here, and that's why it's really important that we go ahead and build things here in order. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and choose myself a station. Now it's going to be a dead end because the line's really not going to continue on from here, to be honest. What I'm thinking is doing something like that and sticking like that in there, for example. So that would work out not too bad. I think actually that's actually really, really nice. I like the look of that, and that'll literally work because this is going to be the end of the line. There's no through line, and it's going to, I mean, realistically I want it to go ahead and connect up to the station down here. However, it's not going to be able to just go straight down the mountain like that. It's going to go down this valley and go along via the stops, which we've already got connected up, and then we can go ahead and start to work on trains, because trains, I love trains. Like, if you've not gathered that from Transport Fever, I absolutely love trains, and it's something that I really want to go ahead and continue to work on. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is, basically over the series, try and build up a pretty epic rail network, to be honest. That's really what I want to do. We're going to go ahead and try build a relatively straight railway line coming down this hill. However, parts of this valley are it's going to be difficult, that's for sure. I don't want it to be as windy as the road. However, I do want it to not just be a straight line, if you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, we're getting down in here into the valley quite easy, and we're basically back down to where civilization is. Now I need it to connect in roughly about here. I think we're going to have a junction which merges in here. However, how are we going to get over to here? Because that's going to be the big difficulty. So I'm not going to have it exactly follow the same path as the road. It's maybe going to change roughly about here. So if we go ahead and jump into the right location, then what I want to do is, first of all, I'm going to build a straight bit which comes down to about there. Then there's going to be, this might be actually really hideous, to be honest. We'll have to see how this works. So that is, yeah, we're definitely going to have to work on that. So there we go, I've actually managed to really build this into the mountain. So I mean, it's not the prettiest, but I think it's the best for the situation anyway. So it sort of just comes down here nice and naturally, no bridges anyway. Maybe a little bit steep coming into here anyway, but it works out quite nicely. And when we get trains into this, it should be working out pretty cool. Now the next part though is going to be the difficult part. I think I'm just going to have to do a really large tunnel, which is something which I really don't mind doing. And you find a lot of tunnels anyway in the Alps, so it works out really, really well. And here we have it, here we have the tunnel. So an interesting junction here, not the biggest fan, to be honest. It's not too bad. And it goes into here, which having a lot of problems just with tunnels in general in this game I don't really get on too well with. They always go in at awkward heights, and this one though is not too bad. I mean, you can see actually go up into the tunnel, which is kind of strange. It goes right the way through this hill here and you go down here. So this whole stretch, I could have gone ahead and had it resurface roughly here in this woods, but I'm happy with how the woods looks, to be honest, and it reappears here, and that works out and connects in here to Balzers. So what I'm going to go ahead and do eventually is modify the line, which is currently just going from Rosenberg to Balzers, and then it's going to go ahead and make its way up the hill, and then eventually, of course, it will come into the main station here, which, again, hopefully will get started on today. So this here is without power, and it's going to have to require some pylons. It depends on how we build this up. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and build on some of the basic essentials really, which I need to go ahead and do. So we're going to have a fire station, and we're just going to have a medical clinic and a police station in here as well. The reasons are because of the fact that this is a remote town, I guess you could say, so It needs these services, and also you can think of them as like mountain rescue and that sort of stuff as well. If there was mountain rescue in this game, then I'd definitely go ahead and put it in, because I think that is required. I don't know if we will have a school up here though, to be honest, because that's not sort of the town I'm wanting to build. Literally it is going to be a hotel and tourist town. So up here as well, I want to go ahead and put in a shopping mall, because this is going to be for tourists. Now, you might think a shopping mall, why would you put a huge shopping mall up here? I don't want to put a huge one in at all. It's literally going to be quite a small one, and it was something that I sort of considered placing when we went ahead and built our shopping area down in Balzers. So it's going to be this here, literally, and if you think about this, how many shops would this have? Probably about 4, I would say, going ahead and looking at just the amount of entrances and also the amount of car parking spaces as well. So this is just going to be the very small shopping mall, and along with that we are going to go ahead and need ourselves some snow dumps, because there's a lot of snow accumulating on the road. So I've also gone ahead and added in a snow dump up here, just because I think it really requires it. Just because you're up in the mountains, you're sort of isolated, I think it works out quite well. However, it seems to be an ambulance, which is, oh, that's a police van actually, which is sort of on its way from all the way up here, which is a bit strange, but I guess if they need help down in the valley, then they need help down in the valley. We're actually going to come down to the valley because it's time to get started on this town here, pretty much. So the town that I want to go ahead and create, I want to make this much more of an official one. It's not going to be suburban, it's not going to be a large on population, but it's going to have a lot of official buildings. And what I mean by that, for example, is I want to have a stadium in this. A lot of people want me to build a lot of stadiums, and I want to build a lot of stadiums as well. Maybe 4 or 5 in this map, because I'm a big fan of sports teams, and I like to go ahead and sort of imagine that, you know, these two towns have a joint football team and this, that and that, and sort of create like an imaginary league, if you could say it in my head. I think that would be pretty cool. I also want to go ahead and add in some offices as well, because offices is something we've really not gone ahead and built at all in this series so far, and also just a lot of these like government official buildings as well. Some of them which are really cool, like a tax office for example, I think would be great. There's also 1 or 2 things, a snowboard arena which could go up the top actually, and I think that would be a great place to go ahead and put that. There's also some other tourist stuff as well, and some 1 or 2 more buildings which I can definitely go ahead and take off the workshop which I have in mind. So the first thing I'm going to do for this town is I'm going to have to go ahead and sort of modify the railway line a bit, because this is like optimal building area here, but unfortunately I can't really get access to it the way the railway is, so I'm going to have to go ahead and create a tunnel. So there we go, that is the change gone ahead and implemented which I want to make. It's basically just allows me to go ahead and use all this land to go ahead and do some building, which we're going to go ahead and get started. This is going to sort of be the main focal point of the town, the railway station, because in the last 2 times we've not really done that, to be honest, and it's something which I've not got a bus up to here, which I will eventually when we get some time, reroute a bus to go via the station, because if the station for trains and also buses complement each other, then the transport system is going to work great. If not, then it's going to be a little bit flawed. So if we very quickly jump back over here, again I need a name for these 2 places, the village up on top of the hills and also this town here. I got 1 or 2 other suggestions, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I'll maybe go ahead and implement them in about 2 episodes time. So first of all, there's a lot of demand for everything really. I do not want to have any industry in this place. I want this place to be extremely green. We're going to use this main road again. On this side, beside the river, we're going to go ahead and basically have coastal path, and we might have 1 or 2 buildings, but not a lot. We're going to have the housing on the outside, so we're going to start off in the centre here with offices and businesses, because that's what I really want to go ahead and do. So for this town, I want to go ahead and build myself a grid format. So I've gone ahead and drawn myself a basic road out here, and then we're basically going to go ahead and work off of this, and we're just going to go ahead and try putting lots of offices and also lots of commercial as well as some of those official buildings which I was showing you the other second. So I'm just gonna probably just reroute a lot of these power lines, to be honest. Right now this train station actually isn't getting used by me, it's only getting used by regional trains, so it doesn't matter if it's disconnected for about 2 seconds. So just go ahead and have the new power line along like that, and then we'll go ahead and just have power lines going through the hills for the time being, connecting up to there like that, and then we'll have you come through and attach on there, so we can go ahead and get rid of this power line down the front of our new town. So with that road laid out, let's go ahead and see what buildings we're going to go ahead and implement into our city. So just looking through some of these, I definitely want to go ahead and put the Grand Library, and I'm going to gear this place up to be the capital of the map, really. The reason I'm not definitely going for, oh, this is going to be the capital, is because if it's a bad build, then I'll just go ahead and build probably another village across the river over here, for example, and sort of maybe just move some buildings over if I have to. So this is going to be the capital, and I realise, yes, it maybe makes sense to go ahead and build over here, but there is some farmland here which I want to go ahead and work on, because I want to go ahead and try as much different things I can in this game, so future series are just run more smoothly, if you understand what I mean. I can go ahead and implement stuff that I want to straight away without having to worry about certain, oh, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that. It will be easier going forward, that's for sure. I'm also going to have to modify the railway lines a lot, to be honest. I really am going forwards. Anyway, so we've got two buildings in here. We've got which I want to think of as sort of the City Hall, which is exceptionally large, to be honest, but it does work out quite well. Not sort of the City Hall, but like the National Assembly, I guess you could say, or the parliaments. It depends. I mean, every country calls it something different. Basically where like the government is run from. It's not where the Prime Minister, President, whatever stays, but it's like Congress, I guess, as well. The National Library, I actually was in town in Edinburgh today, and of course the National Library of Scotland was there, and I think it's something which is very, very important, especially to like traditional countries anyway, having your like big library in your capital city. I think it's just something about it which is just, it links up with sort of the old and the heritage, and it all ties in quite nicely. I do realise that a lot of these are vanilla buildings. I might go ahead and look in the workshop at some point for other buildings, but to be honest, I really do like a lot of these buildings, and we're going to go ahead and detail this whole area up and just sort of fit these buildings into this city. Along with that, let's see what else we've got. I did see a really nice small building actually, which was the, what are you? You're the tax office, aren't you? So go ahead and put this at the back here, and I'm just going to create lots of paths and sort of just build a nice park area around here. I do want to build this place quite dense, however, for the time being, like especially some iconic buildings, i.e. these two buildings here, I want to go ahead and sort of just have it nice and not too dense, you know. I want a little bit of breathing room, because every city does have a little bit of breathing room. If that's New York with Central Park, for example, if that is Edinburgh with Princess Street Gardens, Edinburgh's really not that densely cramped together, and nor is Liechtenstein, so much as I want something, I need to make it work with my city. So those three buildings, I don't really know what else. I mean, give me some suggestions of what you'd like to see me go ahead and build. The courthouse would be a good one, however, the scale of it is just ridiculous. Come on, say if I was to build that, can we go ahead and build it on this back road here? Say if I was to build this temporarily right here, right now, this just does not fit the scale. It really just does not. I do want to have skyscrapers eventually, and when I go ahead and build them, might come back and build something like the courthouse, but it just doesn't fit in. That's the bottom line, and I need to make sure that my buildings fit in. I don't just want like a building, for example, with 2 floors, and then the building next door with 80 floors. That is just like my absolute worst nightmare. It just doesn't work, doesn't fit in, and doesn't look pretty at the end of the day. For the time being, I'm quite happy, to be honest. There's one or two other things which we are going to build in a second, because we're going to get our first like proper business office area going in a second, and a lot of these towers and buildings would fit in. An aquarium would be quite cool as well, especially for the river. However, I don't know if it's going to be sort of like a city centre building anyway. And to be fair, I'm pretty happy with how everything is going so far, so I think we'll just leave those 3 buildings. Up this end, it's not going to be a government end, it's going to be more of a business park up here. So if we go ahead and have a look in here, this is what I want here. So official park, which is more of a business park, and you often see this at the entrances to like business parks, like some art, very modern art, and this is very modern art, and we're going to have this here at the side of the river. However, I want to go ahead and keep up with my coastal path idea, and I also want to go ahead and just put a key along this front part of the river, so we can go ahead and build along here just a really nice path, really nice park area, continue that coastal path idea as I was saying, but it also just leaves a bit of breathing room and allows people to walk freely and people to cycle, and especially if this is going to be a busy business district, then I think it's really necessary for people to commute in and out easily. So I think this works for me right now, so it sort of just juts out here, to be honest, which I'm maybe not the biggest fan of, and there's a lot of room here to play with though, which we'll come back to in detail in later episodes. It juts out right here, as you can see, so I might need to go ahead and smoothen this out, but it was quite a bit away from the shoreline, but I think this will fit in nicely once we go ahead and get more offices built into this area. So we're going to go ahead and do some pre-building and then some pre-zoning, then we're going to go ahead and connect up the electricity. So there's a few interesting buildings which I want to go ahead and try and build. This is like the business arch as well, which should be an iconic symbol for a business area. We've got this monument though, which I'm quite happy to go ahead and roll with. What other buildings do I want to have in this area? There's a few interesting ones. A science centre, which I guess isn't necessarily offices, but serving service offices, that would be kind of cool. And I would like to go ahead and have like one skyscraper which maybe everything is built around. That would be quite cool. So we've got here, again, that building's just a bit too chunky and that's way too tall, even though that would be an ideal idea of building. What about a sea skyscraper? That works quite nicely actually. Yeah, I like that a lot. So if we go ahead and build that in, does that house... What is this? Is this just a large office building? So yeah, we can go ahead and easily build offices around this. And that's also going to help us out with some of our... Well, this is industry, I guess. So we're getting a little bit of demand for industry, and this should work out quite well. So we're going to go ahead and zone all of this back bit up here, to be honest, right along there, and we'll do right along there as well. And we'll do a little bit here. Along with that, I just want to go ahead and put in a few other wee interesting buildings which I found. So I want to go ahead, I seen a McDonald's somewhere which I thought, you know what, that'd be absolutely perfect to have in here. So we'll go ahead and stick you there right beside the river. That just fits in absolutely perfectly there and we'll do it nicely. Go ahead and, as I said, do our path soon. So I'm pretty happy with how all this is going along, to be honest. The next thing I want to do though is go ahead and just sort of detail this place up a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump in here and we're going to go ahead and create some winding paths, because that's something that I love to go ahead and do. So we'll connect you to roughly about there, and then if we have sort of just a central path which comes along here, and then we're just going to have another one which comes down pretty much parallel. I mean, they're not exactly parallel to each other, but it works out quite nicely. Then we're going to have another path which sort of curls off here and lands over there, and then guess what, we're going to have another one which comes off of about here to... Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Oh, that'll work nicely. Again, not absolutely perfect, but it will do. And there we go. So that is just a few paths in there. Now let's go ahead and detail this up a little. And there we have it. Just something quite basic, just something which I think ties this in. And as you can see, just adding those little paths and adding in those trees, it just makes these buildings not stick out and just blend in a little more, which is what I was keenly after. The library, I'll build around the library eventually. I'm not 100% sure what's, for example, going to go in this area, but we're starting to see some offices spring up, which is good. They're connected up to the power grid already, actually, so we need to go ahead and, I guess, just provide this area with services a little better, because that is something which we've not really done so far. So we're going to go ahead and have a pipe which sort of just flows along the waterfront here, and then we'll go ahead and have a little bit of an extra area up here like that. Now for power, how are we going to do this? Quite simply just a power line from there to there, and that gives all you guys power. Up the back road here, not really at all sure what we're going to do. Hopefully more offices are going to go and open up over time. However, there is going to be commuting issues and all that, which has a knock-on effect when you go ahead and build a new area, so we're going to have to work around that one as well. I've decided to change the railway station here. And the reason for that is because, one, I didn't have a mod enabled, but two, as much as it looked nice, it wasn't sort of, it just wasn't fitting in with what I had in mind, to be honest. So I've gone ahead and grabbed this station here, which right now is, it's a bit of a smaller, bit of a flatter station, but even though this is going to be a large, or not a large, it's not going to be a large capital city. This probably won't, I don't know if it will be the biggest city in the map. Realistically, this map is just going to be lots of little villages. It's not going to have a large city, and I thought, that's too large a station. It doesn't need 4 platforms. I think it honestly only needs 2. However, there is the option to go ahead, and this station has 2 sides, I believe, so we have the right side as well, which could fit in at the back. Would need to modify the road a little bit. However, I just couldn't see having 4 tracks. I just didn't see it required, and unfortunately, that station I had, it didn't come in just 2 railway tracks. This one does, however. So I've gone ahead and gone for this again. I might change it over time, we'll just see. But we're going to go ahead and have to support this office area, that's the bottom line, and we're going to go ahead and do that with buses and also with some trains. And trains I think are going to be the best sort of for just people commuting in, and we can also connect up to the top of the hill now, which is good. Anyway, so we jump into here, jump into trains, and let's go ahead and get myself a new line and let's get things going. So going to start off there from the capital, which I'm temporarily going to call Vaduz. That might change, however, but that is going to be our Vaduz. Going to go in there to Rosenberg, then going to come along here into Balzers, then it's going to make a long way up the hill, all the way up to here, which, again, right now I know we've jumped away from, but we will come back to in the next episode, that's for sure. Back down into here, like so. Then along to Rosenberg, which some of this roads need to get tidied up here, and then finally back in to our capital, Vaduz. So that works out quite well. I can't really be bothered renaming it, because literally I'm not going to have a lot of lines. I'm just going to use a colour scheme going forward, because I think that'll work out better. So I just need to go ahead and I do want to make a modification on 1 or 2 bus lines actually. And that is for this. I want to go ahead and basically just sort of alter this line. I need to go ahead and I need to put another stop by the railway station, that's the bottom line. So I've gone ahead and modified this line, put a station outside, or a stop outside the station. It's not perfect because it's looping around here twice, however it will do for now, and we can see that a lot more people are waiting at the station, which is good, and hopefully we'll start to just see in general the line usage go up. I am quite happy with it. Is this one of our trains coming in? I don't think it is, unfortunately, so it's just one of the regional trains, so we'll go ahead and very quickly exit out of this before it gets away, but that's good to see. This is really what I want. It's going to take people off the road, which is good going forward. And of course, all the way up here, if we jump all the way up here right now, the train will eventually come into here, and we're starting to see a few cars coming around. There is trains actually waiting keyed up at the top. Don't think many people are on them, mind you. As you can see, 0 passengers. However, going forward, we're just starting to see a few more people moving around now, which is good to see. So the final thing for this episode I want to do is go ahead and add in some parking, because I'm going to think of this town as a lot of people would travel up to, but they wouldn't stay in. So there's going to be a need for a lot of parking, that's for sure. So going to go ahead and add in a lot of stuff like this just along the road, and this is where people would just come ahead and park. And they can go ahead and make their way onto the slopes, which they maybe drove up from the villages, or other way around. They can go ahead and park the cars here, jump on the train if they need to, and go back down into... I sort of classify it as this isn't civilization. Even though it is civilization, it's not really compared to the rest of the map. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a few different parks, just because I think it's going to be required, and that's sort of what I'm after building. So along with those ones there, which is just something very basic, I want to go ahead and maybe have something a little bit larger. And then we're also going to have another one in here like this. Again, it's just difficult to get it in this valley with all this different landscape. There's also a bear right there, which I noticed as well, but I mean, you're doing fine, so you're having a blast. Seeing 1 or 2 cars parking up in here now, which is good, and as we go ahead and grow this place, it will get even better and better. Do want to go ahead and add actually quite a bit more detail into this though, because I just feel like detailing for the end of this episode. So we're going to go ahead and try and fill some of this in nicely, and then I'm just going to go ahead and basically just add in some basic lines, and just to get a wee bit more experience with Prop and Tree Anarchy. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here, and this sort of brings me back to when I was going ahead and creating the bus area. Actually, that was pretty cool. So we've got white ones, I kind of want yellow. So if we go ahead and take this double road line now, I did realise that Prop and Tree Anarchy was still left on for a ridiculous amount of time. Probably not the best thing at all. However, let's go ahead and just grab our draw line tool. And let's go ahead and draw ourselves a line. Let's search up for... Now I realise that other people use different line drawing mods. I'm using this one because it seemed to get things to line up properly straight for me, because the other mod which everyone seemed to be using, it wasn't perfectly straight, which wasn't what I was after at all. Anyway, if I go ahead and try and draw something like that, then we need to go ahead and first of all change the angle to about 90 if we can, perfectly like that. Then spacing, I need the prop spacing to go to minus, so it links together like that. So probably want it more about there, and that just allows for a nice straight line with no problems at all. Realise that's very little detail, but it does work out quite easily. I'm just going to go ahead and add in a few by hand here to end this episode. so go ahead and add in one like that. I'm very much a perfectionist when it comes to stuff, and that's why I don't always go ahead and mess around with stuff like this, because I always get very frustrated and it can be very off-putting just looking at other YouTubers who are making such amazing stuff and then I'm just messing around with a few yellow lines, to be honest. But that's an enclosed area there and sort of a rough guidance of where cars will go, and that will hopefully work out nicely going forward. That really wasn't much detailing, but I just wanted to go ahead and add in that line there. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this episode up here. So, did a few different things in this episode, that's for sure. Started a few different projects and we'll continue to go ahead and pursue them into the next episode. Definitely going to have to go into the Steam Workshop and just grab a few things and work a few things out, because I am struggling with this game. I'm not going to lie, I really am. The amount of pauses in this video was ridiculous for me. Just going ahead and finding stuff in the correct menus and being able to go ahead and build stuff which is not strange looking. I want to go ahead and have this, that and that, which I don't have. That's the problem. Mod limitations, I've not got the correct mods. Assets or props which I need, i.e. right now I need a lot of hotels. Didn't have the correct mod for the railway station. However, I'm actually glad we did change to this railway station, to be fair. I'm just not, I guess, as comfortable as I would like to be, so that's why some of these episodes are a little bit all over the place, and at times I think it comes across that way because you're sort of seeing that my Transport Fever videos are doing exceptionally well, and City Skylines, which people have been asking me to play forever, the first 2 episodes did great, but since then it's been good, don't get me wrong, but it's not been as good as the first 2 episodes anyway. But bar that, I'm getting into a ramble now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. So hope you have enjoyed it. Please leave a like, rating, and subscribe if you are new around here. There are some links on screen. Go ahead and click on something which you've not seen already. And that is pretty much it. One thing to mention though is if you've got any tips, leave them down below, and also if you have any town names, because we need a town name for this place. I really do want to go ahead and name this place in about 2 episodes time. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. My name is ConflctNerd Callum and I'm out.